Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm joined by by Flav, Flav from the Fighting Cock. How you doing today, Flav?
I'm superb, mate. Spurs have just beaten a team called Lask I'd never heard of before, 3-0 in the Europa League. And our new boy Vinicius, who we bought to replace Harry, not replace Harry Kane, sorry, to support Harry Kane, it has played really well and scored. We've got 2 assists, so really happy in a good mood today, mate. How are you?
Oh, I'm I'm all right, mate. I think that was one of the best performances I've ever. I've ever. Let me be careful. I think for this season that was only your best performances in hang on, let me start again. When it comes to the Europa League so far, that was one of the best performances.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we haven't played that many decent teams. You know, at this stage in the Europa League, it's very much about just getting through the games, don't pick up injuries, getting into the group stages where we're at now, and trying to coast the games, like ensure that we don't put too much in because there's no world really that a team like Lask should be beating a team like Tottenham. So it's really about managing the game, ensuring that we don't pick up any injuries and saving our best players for the more important competitions. But as the competition goes on in Europa League, it will become more and more crucial because, as I'm sure you're aware, Spurs haven't won a trophy in many, many, many seasons. And it's time for that to change. And we put a lot of money in the squad. We've got a chairman who's backing the manager. And obviously, we've got a manager who wins trophies. So everything seems to be in the right place for Spurs at the moment. Long may it continue.
Apart from apart from Man United game, apart from Man United game, with that one of your most comprehensive performances.
I think it's in terms of how well the game was managed. The United game was obviously clearly the standout performance, but it was quite easy. We were never really challenged. We never really had to get out of second gear. And in terms of what you want out of a game like that, then I think it was pretty much a 9 out of 10 performance, really. So yeah.
For for me, for me personally, one of my favorite Spurs players is obviously Solid. I've said it later. Solid.
That's all right. No, you're right. You're good.
So what do you think about Solid?
Oh, Son. I thought you asked if I was sounding loud. Heung-min Son is incredible. He joined us 5 years ago from Leverkusen, cost £22 million, and we didn't really think much of him. Really, that time that wasn't money to be sniffed at, but it wasn't huge money. We didn't realise we were getting the world class player that he's turned out to be. I think his first season he struggled with injury. He got an injury to the tendon in the bottom of his foot, which is quite a difficult thing to heal from. And part of his first season was kind of caught up, dealing with that injury. But since then, he's been fantastic. And you've seen every season he's bagging 20 close to 20 goals. This season, in 2020, he's already got 16. So, and he's got this like almost sort of weird understanding with Harry Kane. They've played with each other for so long now, and Harry Kane's just serving up assist after assist for Son. So very happy with Son. Why wouldn't you be?
I completely agree with very weirdly.
Yeah.
My mom's a big fan of Son.
Yeah. He's such a lovely man, isn't he? It's like my missus and my daughter, right? It's my stepdaughter, actually. But my missus has started watching Spurs with me, and we've been together like 6 years now, 6.5 years. And she had a daughter, and none of them watch football because they live out in Wiltshire. We all live out in Wiltshire now, which is a long way from from any kind of major football team. So the closest would be Swindon and then Bristol. But obviously, unless you're really into your football, you're not going to go and follow Swindon or Bristol. And certainly the daughter and my missus just had no call to watch football. No one really watches football around here, right? So we started watching. I've been watching the Spurs games over the last few years, and Son had joined more or less, at the start of our relationship, and they absolutely adore Son. They love him. All the women seem to love him, but I think it's because he comes across so happy. He just seems so happy all of the time, doesn't he? So yeah, and I don't know if you saw the news today. There are 11 million South Koreans. Son's like David Beckham over there. They love him to bits. 11 million South Koreans who say that Tottenham Hotspur is their team abroad, and obviously that's all because of Son.
Saying that, yeah, could you see something picked up by either Man United or Man City just because of that global appeal that he has?
Yeah, when you're paying a huge amount of money for someone like Heung-min Son, you're not just getting a player, are you? You're getting that global appeal. And that's 11 million people that are buying Spurs shirts, that are paying what will be 25 quid a game, 15 quid a game when we play on Monday. Shirt sales, merchandise. Do you know when we go to Spurs, when we used to be able to go to watch football in the flesh, there were South Koreans all over the stadium. Do you know what, Anthony? Let me tell you how big a appeal he is. When, Bournemouth away, when they were in the Premier League, that was the most difficult ticket to get as an away fan, to go and watch Spurs play in Bournemouth. It was impossible because the ticket allocation was only, I don't know, 900, right? Impossible to get tickets. I went there because a mate of mine couldn't go. I went, and there were 7 South Korean fans in there somehow. I don't know how they got in there, how much money they paid to get in there. All they wanted to do is see Son play football. The sad thing about this story is that he got sent off in that game and we lost. But that's by the by. To answer your question though, mate. Manchester United maybe not. I don't think they'll be able to afford him. He's just about to sign a new contract. If they're not willing to pay 120 million for Sancho, they're not going to pay God knows how much we would demand for Son. But I'd imagine if he signs a new contract, they would have to compensate Tottenham a huge amount, world record transfer fee probably, in order to get him away from Tottenham. I could see him one day playing for Real Madrid, Man City. Not that I would like that, but he's that good. He's that good. And yeah, if someone wants to pay the money that it would cost to prize him away from Spurs, it would be someone like Man City and Real Madrid. But I don't know how they could do it and stay sound with financial fair play. I don't know how they could do it. It's cost too much. The same with Kane. It just costs too much money. No one can buy him.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised, mate.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
There's always a way, isn't there?
But the one thing that might go against him sometimes can be a bit competitive. Like he can lose control of himself sometimes. As you said, he's been sent off quite a lot of times.
He's the most sent off player in the Premier League last year. He was sent off. I think he might have been the most sent off player in Europe 3 times in one season. Look at his lovely little face. Look how happy he is. You wouldn't think he had that in him, but he does. He does lose control. You saw that one against Rudiger, Chelsea, didn't he? When he kicked out.
Andy, why do you think he doesn't get a ball up like it does with other players?
I just think he. I don't know. I just think in that moment he loses control. We maybe believe in his press a little bit, or he's got a temper. And some people seem mild-mannered and seem kind and friendly, and they are for 99%, but everyone has a line. And on the football pitch, Son has a propensity to have that line crossed. But what I would say is in the instances where he's been sent off, he's kicked out, he's punched someone. I can't remember the other one where he got sent off, but I think it was some sort of raising a hand. So I would say that he was provoked. That's what I would say as a Spurs fan. He's been provoked. He's so good that they've just provoked him into reacting that way to get him off the pitch.
But if you went on a night, if you went on a night out and it all kicked off, that's the sort of person you would want by your side.
What's that, mate?
If you went out, if you went out on a night out, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I understand. Yeah, you would want someone. Well, I don't know. Maybe you would want someone out on a night out. Firstly, he'd get a lot of attraction, so you can maybe like feed off his coattails for somewhat, free drinks and whatnot. But he does have a short temper. And I've had friends in the past who had a short fuse on a night out and ended up getting in trouble. So I don't know. And I think I'd risk it. To have a night out on the town with Heung-min Son, I think I'd risk any potential fisticuffs that would happen.
So you do have a podcast called The Fighting Cock. Is there any particular reason behind the name The Fighting Cock?
Well, I don't think anyone forgets it when they hear it. We intentionally put the word cock in it because it's funny, isn't it? Well, it was funny. It was funny when we made the podcast. Now I'm 40, got 2 kids, and I'm getting married next year. My business is called The Fighting Cock, and I don't know how funny that is anymore. But the point of it was to we started the podcast 10 years ago, right? And we were coming up with names, and it's no point having, there are so many Spurs podcasts out there now. There's the Spursy podcast, the Spurs show, Last Word on Spurs. They're all good podcasts and popular podcasts in their own right, but they're hard to differentiate between the two. Do you remember I saw your interview with Rory, and you made a mistake in saying he was on 100% Chelsea when he was actually whatever his podcast was, or his channel was. So he made this because it's hard. It's hard to separate them. So what we wanted to do is if in the future there was competition for our podcast with other Spurs pods, that we would have a name that people remember. And look, we get a lot of stick, a lot of fans from other clubs saying, "You call yourselves the Fighting Cocks?" And we go, "Yeah, we do." But yeah, that was the idea. It's just look. I mean, ultimately, Spurs. It's a nod to our history and our heritage. We're called Spurs. I'm not sure if you know this, or Hotspur. There's no other teams called Hotspur in world football. You know that, right? And if there is, then it's because they've nicked it from us. Now, it goes back to a guy called Henry Hotspur, who was a maniac, crazily brave, a warrior, a soldier, a knight in England back in, I can't remember the actual date, but a long time ago, right? And he was so fearless and so braggadocious and so cocky that as he rode into battle, he would have spurs on the back of his heel and they would jink like that. You know what spurs sounds like when a cowboy's driving in. And he would ride his spurs into battle and he'd hear the jinking and the enemies would fear it because they heard the jinking of Harry Hotspur. So the boys who formed the football club back in 1882, loved this story about this fearless, arrogant, braggadocious hero who in battle, who struck fear into the hearts of the enemies, decided to take the word Hotspur and apply it to Tottenham Hotspur when the club was created in 1882. So the Spurs, I'm getting somewhere here, mate. The Spurs on the back of his heel are also cockerels that are used to fight also have these spines on the back of their heels, right? So a very long story, boringly told by me now, is the reason why we're called the Fighting Cock. That's it. Not just because it has the word cock in it.
I find the actual name quite a weird
one.
Weird name when you think like as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, it's pretty appropriate for football fans.
Yeah.
because we get a lot of football like, oh, God.
I couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. There are more cocks watching football than there are in any concentrated group of people in society. Yeah, there's tons of them, especially on Twitter. There's a lot of cocks and dickheads there as well.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm probably one of them, to be honest. But you got to admit it. Yeah, it's not a very nice place. Twitter can be, and football. You know, football is very divisive and very partisan, and so people will behave in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. Plus, they got the protection of being behind a computer screen or a phone, so they act in a horrible way. But yeah, mate, I like it. I don't think we'll ever change. I think the fighting cock's fine. I think sometimes when we're trying to get brands onto the pod, they might look at it and go, "The fighting cock, are you sure?" But you know, it is what it is. And the podcast, I don't know if you've listened to it, but the podcast it's silly, it's stupid. Right, we talk about football, but ultimately we're a bunch of mates who've been friends for 10 years and more, some of us. And it's just about taking the piss out of each other and having a good time and showing love for each other. And Tottenham is the kind of thing that holds us all together. So I think that the name, The Fighting Cock, is in keeping with the type of show we have.
Then you could just say it like chickens. Because it's an Italian chicken, a cock.
Yeah, of course, and that's what we do say. So if anyone says, "Can you explain the name?" I've told you the truth, but generally what we say is, yeah, it's the fighting cockerel, in a cockerel, but the fighting cockerel doesn't sound as interesting as the fighting cock, so we decided just to call it that. But yeah, look, you've got to stand out. There's not enough. People are so busy. People are got tons of stuff to look at on their phones and on Twitter, and you got a second to capture their attention. A second, that's it. You don't. They don't owe you anything. They don't owe you a second, a moment's notice to take some time to watch and look at your content. They don't owe you anything. You don't know them, so you have to force them to recognize what you're doing. You have to force them to say, actually, I might give this podcast a go, or I might watch this video, or I might watch your interview. How do you force them to stop? It's called an interrupting pause, where they're looking, they go, what's that? And it might be something like the name, like the fighting cock. It might be a statistic that's really outrageous. Often, Anthony, it's tits. Yeah, sex. That's how people usually do it. So you know, and that you're fighting with all of that sort of stuff, and it's you know, you're everyone's scrabbling around for people's time. So giving yourself an opportunity by calling yourself something a little bit out there, but still within the realms of decency, is not a bad method to do it. But it does a lot of conversations come up about it.
That's my problem. Yeah, I'm a very basic bitch.
What you mean? You're not promoting yourself properly?
No, like, do you know when the Anthony podcast? It's okay, mate. It's only engaging, is it?
Well, yes, exactly. I would, if my advice would be that you need to come up with a new name for the pod. Anthony Podcast isn't going to cut it, right? But well, it depends what you want, Anthony. If it's just that you want to have these conversations, and the fact is that you're going to do that, right? And you talked to some great people already. Loz, he's showing support, and I know Brian True Geordie has as well.
Yeah,
people are going to want to support you, mate. But you got to give yourself the best opportunity. So I reckon if a little bit of like graphic design work for the thumbnails, and maybe a change of the name would be something that might work. But what I'm saying, Anthony, you've got what most people don't have, and that's you ask the question: will you come? Will you be on the pod? Will you do this? And that's the most important thing, Anthony.
When it comes to the name, I just want it to be authentic and genuine. I think sometimes that even though it's good in one way, I think I know you, Arena. fancy name
Yeah.
can sometimes take away from the content, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's called style over substance. You're saying, you might have all of the best graphic designers in the world, you might have the best equipment in the world, but if the substance isn't there, if the quality of conversation isn't there, then it means nothing at all. It means nothing at all. I'm not saying change it. I'm saying, if it might be something for you to think about.
Yeah,
But your interview, I've been watching a few of your interviews over the last few days, and the way you structure the questions and the questions you ask, it's easy and it flows really well. You've got the right substance there. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
In my opinion.
At the moment, I'm just trying to get my speech pattern right. Because, you know, when I'm doing a video by myself,
Yeah.
I can speak pretty clearly.
Yeah, I noticed.
Well, you know, when I'm in an interview with somebody else,
Yeah.
because I'm thinking about how to try and keep it flowing. Sometimes I end up stuttering over my words quite.
Yeah. But look, everyone does that though. If you're just talking into a camera, and you don't have to think about what the other people are thinking about, where the conversation's going. Look, these people go to. I went to university and did journalism, and this was modules of study about how to do that. How do you think on your head, be aware of what the other person is saying, think about what you're going to say next, and then when you speak, be coherent about it. I think you're saying that you struggle about it because of your disability, but actually no, it's a very normal thing to struggle with. And I don't think I think obviously practice is really important, and the more you do it, the better you get. And that's the same for anybody in journalism or producing podcasts or doing interviews. The more you do it, the better you get. You should listen back to I can't listen to it. The first podcast we ever did, the Fighting Cock podcast, I was awful. And I'm not saying I'm great now, but I was terrible back then. I was like, listen back to it. And I haven't listened to it for a couple of years. And I'm sure anyone watching this who knows the podcast will probably go back and try and find it now. But I was terrible, mate. I didn't know what was going on. I was talking bullshit all the time and couldn't link the conversations together. But after doing it over and over again, we've recorded 10 seasons and we're about 70 episodes a season. So whatever that is, nearly 700 episodes. So it's second nature now. It's like, it's like doing anything, writing a letter or playing Call of Duty or whatever it is people like to FIFA. The more you do it, the better you get. So I would say, yeah, that's a great way to go about it. And a really good thing is the people you're getting on have really good communities on YouTube and Twitter and stuff. I wouldn't say I have. I'm surprised you wanted to even talk to me, but because of other people you've had on. But yeah, you're going to build up your fan base by doing these interviews with people that have influence. Certainly, people like Loz and Rory Jennings, and who else you did the Laura Woods as well.
To be honest, mate, the reason I've got them people on is because, as I've said, yeah, sometimes I find it difficult to keep the conversation flowing, and I know people like Lawrence and people like Rory are very good at that.
Yeah, they are good. They're really good at it. Oh, you watch them on the kickoff a lot, I bet.
Yeah. So it's like a guide dog, so to speak.
I get what you're saying. Look, you bring guests onto your podcast because they offer something that you don't. Not how well they can speak, but their experiences. Like I do an interview podcast that I've been producing through the lockdown, and it's talking to people, normal people with very interesting lives. And I don't say anything. I sit back, I ask questions, and let them go because no one needs to hear my voice on this podcast I'm producing. You just need to speak to the people, and without them, I wouldn't have a podcast there. I wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't be as good as I think it is without the guests who come on and speak so freely about their experiences. So in that instance, they're my guide dog. in the same way that you are, like what you just said, in terms of having Loz and Rory who can string a sentence together and can talk freely and guide the conversation. Is it's normal. That's good. That's essentially what you're doing is producing there. You're producing content. You're finding the people, you're doing the research, and you're having wonderful conversations.
Because because obviously, when you have two people that can't really speak, when you have two people that find it hard to speak fluently, it's a bit awkward, if you know what I mean.
Of course it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have to ensure that what you're putting out, the product you're putting out, is something that people can listen to easily, and that's about choosing the right guest. But it's not about. I've had people on our podcast that have been great off camera or off mic, and as soon as the mic's on, they fall apart. Like they can't. They get really, really anxious and nervous, and they just can't they can't string a sentence together because they're just, I don't know, their head goes. They get their head goes.
Plus, when you're recording, you have to think about what you say a lot more, don't you? 'Cause especially nowadays, people, your career coming end. Well, yeah, I'm gonna say ended just because of one bad.
Yeah, like comment you talk about, you can get cancelled.
Yeah.
I think yes, of course. I could say something on this podcast that was so outlandish and so bad that people might just think I can't support this guy anymore. And through the years, we've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've said things that have upset people. And actually, just last week on the podcast, we had a question sent in to us that at the time I thought was very near the mark. Right, it was close. It was bordering on indecent. And instead of thinking maybe we shouldn't do it, in my head I was like, "This is funny. Let's talk about it." We put the podcast out, and a lot of people didn't agree at all. And the more people that came to us and said, "Look, this wasn't cool. This ended." The way the podcast ended and what you talked about, the more I've reflected and go, "All right, okay, I'm listening to what people are saying. What I think is funny perhaps isn't, right?" And you got to learn, and you've got to realize that certainly if your business is built around content, that you're only able to do that if people support you and believe in what you're doing. And if you're spending time being too controversial and upsetting people, then you're really flouting the support they're giving you, right? You're saying you're sticking your fingers up at people that are supporting you if you're putting stuff out that you think's funny because you think it's funny. So we edited it out, we re-uploaded it, and we learn and move on and try not to make that mistake again.
Yeah, it's all like learning and progression. Life is, isn't it? No matter what you do, so
yeah. Well, I'm 40 nearly, and I'm still learning. I'm still fucking making mistakes all the time. And how old are you, Anthony?
I'm 24, nearly 25. I'll be 25 in December.
All right, so I started the pod when I was 29, and I dread to think the shit I would have come out with at 24. So I think the podcast came to me at the right time in my life.
Luckily, I've always been pretty sensible when I speak, so I don't have to worry about that.
You could, I suppose you could say that that's the people have misunderstood. Yes, I would still be wary. Anthony, you're lucky in that you've seen all this cancel culture happen. You've seen it happen, right? You've lived through it. You've known that this is possible. You saw what happened with Geordie back a year ago or so.
Yeah.
So you've seen it, but back then, in when I was 24, there was no such thing as cancel culture. There was no Twitter, so people couldn't get cancelled. It wasn't possible. There wasn't no constant communication. People talking about everything all the time. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I would say that you're in a better position than I would have been because you understand.
and and also I've I've seen the numbers you can get if it pops off, and back then I would imagine you didn't get the numbers that you could get. I would think at best you probably thought a couple thousand, might a couple of hundred might see it. But if you do it right and if you have the right marketing, you can
Mm.
get you can get millions and
Well,
millions.
you just got to have. I don't. I if I knew the trick of being a success on YouTube or anywhere else, I would bottle it and I would sell it. Right? You just have to all I can say. Loz and Brian are much better placed because they are successful. I'm not, right? I'm not even on YouTube apart from being on James's channel, right? But YouTube isn't my thing. Podcast is my thing. But my understanding is that you just have to have this likable personality and then understand the system of YouTube, what you have to do in order to tap into trends. And yeah, and you need something different, Anthony. And that's there's so many YouTubers out there that don't make fuck all. They don't make any money. They can't survive on it because they're late to the game and they don't have anything unique to say. And I think, Anthony, you do. You do
And
have something unique to say.
to be honest with you, I've, I haven't seen any any side YouTuber that has cerebral palsy, so I can give people some interesting life experiences. Well, I think I can anyway.
I think you're in a unique. Look, it depends how you look at it, right? You can look at your situation as something that you can work with, you can exploit, you can make benefit you, or like some people do when they're dealt a rough card, if you want to look at it like that. That they focus on the negative aspects of it. To me, what you're doing is fantastic, and I think that's why people are receptive to be talking to you and wanting to come on your podcast. Is because you're putting out positive energy, right? You're creating, you're doing stuff. The world is full of people that don't do stuff. Don't underestimate how important it is that you're doing stuff, because there are people in the world that complain why success doesn't come to them, but they do nothing about trying to get that success. And they don't create. They don't ask. They don't say, Laura Woods, will you come on my podcast? Loz, will you come on my podcast? Then they don't have the bollocks to go through with it and talk to people that some people would find intimidating. So the fact that you do all that and the fact that you have cerebral palsy gives you an advantage, actually. I think a unique selling point, a unique voice. You have experiences that people will never be able to appreciate unless you tell them.
And also, I've had people that have told me I don't even have a disability, and it still really inspired me. So that's what that's what I wanted. I wanted to inspire people to do what they want to do what they want to do what they want to do in life.
Fucking right, Anthony. Mate, that's such a good thing, such a positive thing, and people will react to that. People, the fact that you want to inspire, you want to show, look, from my bed, this is what I'm able to do. Right, I have these difficulties. I have cerebral palsy. I have these restrictions, but yes, I'm doing stuff. And you're right. It would be inspiring. It's inspiring. It's inspiring to me, and it's also inspiring to want to do better. Yeah, not just concentrate on producing bullshit football content about Tottenham, which really fundamentally it does a lot for people. People send us emails saying, "Oh, this helped me get through a really bad time," but in terms of the content, it's not always the most inspiring stuff to do, right? It's just football. But it makes you, when you say stuff like that you want to create something to inspire, that makes me want to be better. That makes me want to do things that will help other people and inspire other people. And I'm not sure I'm capable of it. I don't know what I could do, but you've definitely got that. You've got that nailed on already. So yeah, it's just about kind of continuing to develop what you've got, I think.
Because I have personal friends that are really frightened about doing this. Because obviously there's obviously a dark side to the internet and
Yeah.
things like that. So they are really frightened. So
So
I guess it's just a case of do 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 what you love and then all the haters.
well, fuck them. Like, who cares? Like,
Yeah,
if you can, Anthony, and it isn't easy. If you can ignore anybody who says anything stupid or anything nasty, then you win. You win. Not never engage, never acknowledge, block if you have to, but you win if you do that. And you know who loses if you don't. If you let it affect you, then you do. You lose. You'll stop producing your content. You'll stop doing things because some dickhead virgin who really, is so unhappy with his own life that he would spew out that bile to someone who's just trying to do something good. They're not worthy of your time. They're pathetic, right? So if you can, and your friends can, then they should. But if they're not ready to, and they feel like it would hurt them if they saw those comments, then they shouldn't, and they take their time. But they need to get to a stage where they've developed a thick enough hide to understand that people are going to be critical. Like do it. Go on.
my stance is if people are not hating on you, you're not doing a good job.
Well, to some degree, you don't want to court this stuff. Some people go out and they be needlessly provocative in order to create audience, and that in its own instance isn't a very healthy place to be in. But that's not what you do at all, Anthony. And if you're putting yourself out there and people are watching your stuff, and the reaction is that you're going to get haters, then maybe you are doing the right thing, because they see you, right? They see your content, whereas otherwise they wouldn't have done. As long as you don't let it hurt you, and it doesn't affect your drive to be creative, then all is good. Have you got much? Can I ask, Andy? Have you got many people being horrible online, or you're okay?
I get the. To be honest with you, mate, to be honest with you, I don't pay much attention to the negative comments, so I couldn't really tell you, to be honest.
Good stuff, mate.
I get called. I obviously get called the R word, and I obviously get called as plastic every day.
But people are actually leaving those comments. You see that?
Yeah. To be honest, mate, I probably didn't say this. Did I have a personality words? I find humor in
Humorous.
it.
Yeah, like a dark humor. I mean, look, it's your prerogative if you turn that into a humorous, turn that humor out of it, and that's really that I would see that as a really positive thing, because you imagine if you were reading that stuff and you were like, oh my god, this hurts so much, but if you can laugh at it, you win. You have the power, right? You take control of the power. You take control of the energy in this situation. They're trying to shit on it, and you've taken control of it completely, and just saying that no matter what you can say, I'm going to laugh at this, because they don't want you to find it funny, right? They don't want you to be able to laugh at it. They want you to be hurt by it, because they're pathetic. And if you've got that dark humor, it will help. It will help.
Because when I first did make an interview, I didn't know how to take it, but as I've done more episodes, I realised that you just have to take it with a pinch of salt. 99.9% of them, if they saw me in real life, they would never say energy.
Mate, they not 99, none of them would. None of them would have the balls to say it, especially if you were with someone who was your friend. None of them would have the balls to say it. And that's why they're pathetic. If they're we're not saying anything no one knows, right? Doesn't know already, rather. They're arseholes, mate. You don't pay attention or worry about arseholes. And you know that if that's they want to spend their life calling you a spastic on a YouTube channel because you're doing something decent, you're doing something good, you're inspiring people, then really that is their negative energy that they got to carry. If you don't let it affect you, they've got to carry that shit all over the place all day. This feeling in them that they need to hurt or insult other people, and it will catch up with them. One day, someone will give them a slap. One day, or they'll just have to live with this negative emotion. But it doesn't. No one can walk around spewing out that negativity for it not to come back at them.
So do you know when you first started? Yeah. No, let me not say when you first started, but when you started getting a bit of buzz, how did you take to the trolls and people comments?
Well, so mine's slightly different. Like, well, it depends. For the podcast, the thing that I started first. It wasn't trolling, but it was people that weren't unhappy with the fact that there were these Spurs fans who were doing something, producing a podcast. We were one of only 3 podcasts at the time, so we had like a big share of the market. Now there's tons. There's like 30 or 40 just popping up everywhere. But yeah, we had a big share of the market, and some aspects of our fan base didn't like it, so they would call me out. People wanted to fight me. They wanted to. I'd get this one bloke would obviously get pissed up, coked up on a Friday night, and he'd get brave and start calling me out on Twitter, calling me, I don't have to say the C word, but calling me the C word. And I was just like, this is weird. Like, what? Like, why are people so bothered about this? So in the first instance, I was like, this is not on. But if I respond, I know that this is going to get worse. So I never did. And I used to go down football and you just see these people, but they never did fuck all. Of course they didn't, because they're all bollocks. It's all nonsense and I've got 5 brothers, and they're all a little bit tasty. So I don't think anyone really would ever want to start a fight with me or my brothers because of the podcast we produce. So that's from that point I started to develop quite a thick skin to anything really. And now the only thing that affects me at all, it affects me is if I feel like we've done something on the podcast, said something that's upset people, to the point where it's fine to be offensive, right? You should be, comedy. Not saying we're comedians, but a lot of what we do is tongue in cheek, and sometimes comedy is offensive, and it's and so it should be to some degree. But if you're really hurting someone, then or you're saying something that's really negatively affecting them, then that's the stuff that I really think about. But getting called a twat or something, or a silly ponce, or a I don't know, whatever they call me on a YouTube. Like YouTube comments are unreal, and it was worse on Ball Street, less on James's, because there's a nice community there on James's channel, right? But on Ball Street, we used to get it, and if you were saying stuff about someone's football team, oh my God. I remember once I dug out Ronaldo and Messi. I just said it's boring, they should retire. Football doesn't need them anymore. The heat I got off that was unreal. There was a good one. Let me read you out a comment I got from. So I haven't showed anyone this yet. So this is a bit of an exclusive for the Anthony podcast, mate. So I did a interview with Nicky from West Ham Fan TV. I'm not sure if you've ever seen his channel, right?
Yeah.
And it was about Arsenal. We're talking about Arsenal. And there's one thing I hate. There's nothing I hate more actually than that football club and the fans that follow them. So whenever I talk about them, I get quite angry, and it's pathetic. Again, I'm 40 years old. I should be over this by now, right? But I get quite annoyed, and I called all Arsenal fans pricks, which I shouldn't have done, right? It's stupid. It's not true. I know some Arsenal fans, they're not all pricks, right? Some of them are fine. But if you support Arsenal, my opening position with you is that I don't like you, and they have to be nice people to get over the fact that they support Arsenal, right? Because I can't in my head like nice people don't support Arsenal. We're horrible.
It's very childish.
Yeah, it is very childish. You're right, but I love it in the same way. So the where are we trying to find it? He took exception to it, which is fine, but he found my personal. I can't find the message, mate. I'm sorry. He found me on my personal Facebook message, like that. My account, my personal information. My kids are on there, right? And started slagging me off, calling me a scumbag, an opportunistic prick. Next time you better say this. It's very threatening. All for giving Arsenal fans some stick. So yeah, people take it seriously. If you guys just like, what's he going to do? He's not going to come to my house and try and beat me up. So, so I left it. I didn't respond to him, but I did upset him. And perhaps I should have reined it in. And next time I'll be a little bit less, a little bit less sort of offensive towards Arsenal fans.
Do you know Wall Street? Yeah.
Yep.
No offense to you or anybody else that used to work there, but I used to find a lot of the time I used to find the content boring. Like, do you know the other guys on? I used to do like the panel sort of thing. If you know,
the Long Ball Street or the social club.
The social club, that was it.
You didn't like it?
I like that, but all the other content was pretty boring. That is.
Love it. I look, it's subjective, isn't it? I agree. The content at Ball Street wasn't fantastic, and there were lots of reasons that I don't want to go into, but I can't really. It's not fair on anybody. So, but I understand Social Club is really popular, and we I can't remember why, but I think. I can't remember. I can't go into it really. I can't talk about that stuff because it's people. Wall Street's still a company that exists, and it's a little bit like, it's just not professional to talk about.
To keep it short and sweet, yeah. You had creative differences sometimes. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, that's one way to put it. There are lots of things though, but creative differences is one. I think the biggest mistake we did was engineering something that happened. I mean, I don't even know. I can't even remember how it happened that Social Club stopped doing it. But I think they just got disillusioned with the way things were going. And so
okay, let's move on. Say your friendship with Jan Dorker.
Yeah,
I find it hilarious, but in a good way.
Yeah, we're very different people.
Because he's more animated, and you're more conservative.
Yes, conservative. Yeah. Yes.
To be clear, I'm not talking about politics.
No, I know. Well, look, I love James deeply, right? I'm not saying that we're friends before we put content together. I was an usher at his wedding. I'm getting married next year, and he'll be an usher at mine. So we are really good friends. He's among my best friends, right? But we are so different. It is unbelievable. He's so excitable and animated and driven and wants to get everything done, and he wants to go above and beyond what I think is necessary. And we have completely different outlooks with football. But what's interesting about having the same opinion on everything and reacting the same way is boring, right? Part of the reason why some of the content on Ball Street was boring is it was too vanilla, right? It was too.
Yeah.
It was not less personality. What was great about Social Club, and perhaps we didn't realize at the time, was that Ped and Paul Chris, and when we went on there, people are there for the interactions, the personalities. The same thing with kickoff, right? You've got Geordie, big, massive personality. You've got Rory, massive personality. Hugh Izzy, massive. And Loz. You can't foul when you've got that much banter and opposing opinion. Like Rory and Loz are so different, but they can talk in a way that's entertaining on the show. And that's the same thing with me and Jim. Like, first and foremost, there's a genuine love there, but also we're different, and that's good. And sometimes he's talking about football, and I'm like, oh, fucking James, I don't care about this. I don't care whether or not Lampard is good enough for Chelsea. I'll placate you. We'll have this stupid, boring conversation, right? And then we're talking about something I want to talk about. But it works. It works because I can, anyone can talk about football. Me and you can have a conversation, but it works in a way.
My favorite clip had to be where we were talking like Kepa, and you were just sitting there like, what are you doing? Because he was jumping around.
Yeah, yeah, that's James, isn't it? I'm sitting here staring and waiting for him to finish his thing. Waiting for him to finish his bit, and then we'll carry on. Well, it's like I don't know if you ever seen the bit where we're talking about Pochettino, the problem of Pochettino at Spurs, and I compared it to say there's no chance that Pochettino could ever come back to Spurs, because it's like him being it's like him being a dad who's bummed the kids. You can't go back from that, right? And he was like, what? In my head, I thought it was really funny. He was like, what the fuck have you just said? So that's why it works, mate, I think that's why it works. We're different.
Absolute class.
Yeah.
You know when it comes to Spurs documentary, since it come out, have you changed your opinion?
I've changed my opinion on. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was a puff piece. I think it was a documentary that it was a documentary that that was designed to sell Tottenham, the brand, right? To make us more popular. They got the access they needed in order to make it interesting, because I'm sure they had an agreement that you can't dig Spurs out here. And I really liked it. I liked getting an insight, because the problem with football is that the fans and what goes on inside the club are so far removed from each other that it was refreshing to get that level of insight. And I really liked Jose Mourinho. I really liked him. Before that, I was like, I was hoping for him to be successful, but I liked him as a person. And I think he went up in a lot of estimations, in the estimations of a lot of Spurs fans. And I think it was good. What do you think?
I thought it was decent. I obviously I don't. All I'm gonna say is it's a bit ironic how they were filming the documentary, and then they got Jose Mourinho, probably the most box office manager you could get. It's a bit ironic.
Yeah.
The only person I didn't really like on that documentary was Dele Alli.
Yeah, he didn't come across great, did he, Dele Alli? I think I don't know if it's poorly edited, but he just, I mean, they focused on the fact that Jose Mourinho called him lazy in training and whatnot. But it's and he hasn't really. When Jose Mourinho started, Dele Alli was on fire. He was brilliant. But then when I don't know what happened after lockdown, he's fallen off. You can't even get him outside. He played a bit yesterday, but he's
To be honest, I think it's best for him and best for you guys at the club if you just move him on, to be honest.
I think you might be right, mate. I think it feels like his time at the football club's coming to an end. I'm not sure where he fits in our tactics. If we're going to be playing 4-3-3, that he doesn't really. He's essentially a number 10, or he play up top with a striker. I can't see him playing a 4-3-3. So, and that seems to be the way that Jose Mourinho wants to play. All of the best managers in the world seem to play a 4-3-3. So it's just one of those things that I think you might be right that we might have to cash in on him.
To be honest, I can see him ending up at Newcastle. I can.
You can. Newcastle? Well, surely he's better than Newcastle.
I really don't think any of the top team would take Winner for as a starter. Maybe on the substitute.
Everton, maybe. You can see him go Everton. I think in his head he sees himself as like Real Madrid, Barcelona, that kind of level. I think that's what he aims for, but perhaps not.
Well, as a footballer, you need to aim for that. If you're not aiming for that, then what are you doing?
That's right. That's exactly it. And it's that mentality that gets you to where you got to go. But I think, although I don't rate him that highly, I do think he's better than Newcastle.
We will see. I genuinely don't see it right.
Yeah, really, that's true. Well, look, I'm in the minority amongst Spurs fans who really don't see the fuss about him. Like, he was great 2 or 3 years ago. He bagged 20 goals a season playing with Kane and under Pochettino's very best Tottenham side in 2016. But since then, he's really kind of flat to deceive pretty much.
I think, when it comes to play like Gareth Bale, and the top players of our world football, because I still think Gareth Bale's in the top 10 players in world football. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I think.
Casemiro, the Real Madrid midfielder, he said Bale is still top 5. I mean, it's so subjective, isn't it? So it's so dependent on what people want to see. Bale's injuries have meant that he'll always be known as that player who's amazing, world-class talent, but injury prone. What he needs to do now is, if he bags 20 goals for Spurs this season, if he can, then I think there's no argument that he's certainly among the very best clutch of players in the league. And the beautiful thing is that we already have 2 in Kane and Son.
And I think with that front three in particular, I think you got a good chance of finishing in the top 4.
Top 4? Good chance of winning the league, Anthony. Forget top 4. Nah, not having it.
No, I'm not having that. Obviously, Liverpool's still up there, Man City's still up there, so I don't think you have a chance of winning the league.
Nah, bollocks to them. We're going to win the league.
I really don't think you believe that, do you?
I don't believe that, no. But I feel like we're probably better than people give us credit. We're not going to win the league. Liverpool, despite that result against Aston Villa, are still the best team in the league, I'd imagine. So it's hard to see anyone past them. But I think no one had us finish in top 4. There was like 25 BBC journalists, and not one of them had Tottenham finish in the top 4. I don't think people really giving us credit for just how good we potentially can be this year.
So can you remember the first time you ever went to a Spurs game?
Yeah, I can. I was 4 years old. It was a League Cup game, I think, with a team. I think we were playing Bournemouth. It was a Milk Cup game. It used to be called the Milk Cup. The League Cup is such a tin pot trophy that once Milk sponsored it. The dairy product, the Milk Cup. Anyway, I digress. Yes, I was 4 years old and I went to White Hart Lane. I don't remember much about it. I remember what my dad told me. I fell asleep about 20 minutes into the game. And I like to say that I fell asleep because I felt at home, but I was probably just bored out of my mind. And I started going properly with my dad from about 9 or 10, where he would take me to football. Well, what he'd do actually is he would go to the pub for 3 hours before, and I would have to sit outside with my brothers with a packet of crisps and lemonade and wait for him to stop drinking, and then we'd go and watch the game. But yeah, that it was great. It was good fun. We'd just muck about, and going football when I was young was the best part of the week. You get to spend time with just your old man and your brothers, and everyone's there for the same reason. And through this time, you don't know, but you're developing a relationship with the football club. You're understanding the traditions there. You're developing friendships and relationships with other people that are going there. And it's a wonderful thing. I always get quite sad, Anthony, right, when talking about this stuff now. I get quite emotional about it because of what's gone on. And obviously the coronavirus shutting football down in terms of spectators, that I didn't realize how much I missed it until it was taken away. Do you know what I mean? I would often complain about how the game's changed and how no one sings anymore, but it's not. There's so much more than that. It's so much more than how loud you sing in the ground. There's a whole environment around the game that's crucial to people's mental health, and that's just meeting people, having a beer, and sharing something that's greater than yourself together. I know I've sort of gone off on a path there because you asked me when I remember my first game, but it makes me miss football quite a lot.
Don't worry about it, mate. It's more content for me at the end of the day.
Yes, it is indeed, Anthony.
So anyway, I don't want to keep you too long. So I have
okay, mate, no worries.
2 more questions.
No problem.
The first one is: Do you think because of things like VAR and social media, people have become a lot more conscientious when they try to football matches are looking stupid and looking silly. So that's why nobody does anything anymore.
You mean like when on Twitter and like watch alongs, they don't want to go too crazy because they don't want to look silly. I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct. And also, worse, inside the grounds, you're watching and you score a goal. I remember like last year, all right, you probably remember the game. Spurs got smashed by Bayern Munich. They got slapped 7-2, right?
Yeah.
I remember that game, right? But the thing that I remember coming away from that game I wasn't sad. I mean, I was fuming that we just got beaten 6-7-2. It's horrendous. I was like literally standing in front of the goal, Anthony, right? And just bang, goal, bang, goal, bang, goal. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Sorry, my dog's just let himself in. Yeah, so I was like, I don't know what was going on. And then, but I remember specifically Son putting us 1-0 up, and I only half celebrated because I thought VAR are going to look at this and they could chalk it off. And it goes the same with people, in terms of content online. Like if you look at the amount of videos that were shared of Liverpool fans celebrating that goal against Everton in the last minute, only for it to be ruled off. For other fans, great. I love seeing that shit. I love it, but it isn't helpful, conducive to football. It's not a good thing for football.
That was absolute bullshit, by the way. I know it was technically offside, but it was bullshit.
It was bullshit, and it shouldn't have been a question because it was so close. And I still can't. It's like his sleeve or something. It was offside.
His armpit.
His armpit, brilliant. So yeah, it's stupid. I've got to say, when it goes your way, you're like, it's convenient to forget that it's bad. But yeah, you don't want games decided like that. You want to see the goals. You want the moments of glory. It's not enough just to be correct. You want to see, you want to explode. You want that moment of explosion and that feeling not to be tempered by an armpit being offside.
No, I was going to have one more question, but I thought I'll one more because I just thought of them as an ultimate one. Because obviously, I am a Villa supporter. So, do you think, obviously, our boy Jack Greedy.
Oh, what a player.
Do you think he comes to you guys, or do you think higher up than that.
What do you mean higher up than that? I just told you we're going to win the league. There's no higher than that. That's the top. I think our opportunity to sign Jack Grealish has passed. We had that 2 years ago or 18 months ago when your previous owners, there was apparently a deal between Tottenham and your previous owners for 25 million for Jack Grealish or 20. And the new owners come in, rightly so, and said, bollocks to that. He's not going anywhere. He's, outside of Spurs, my favourite player, hands down. I think he's incredible, brilliant. And how Southgate is not putting him in that team is beyond me.
I don't think he likes him, to be honest. I genuinely don't think he likes him.
Well, personally, you must not like him personally.
Yeah.
I agree. It can only be that because there's no reason why Mason Mount should be starting ahead of Grealish. So yeah, I don't think sadly, I don't think Grealish is going to be signing for Spurs anytime soon. He's just got this new contract, and you must love him. Like as a Villa fan, it's all you want. A potentially world-class forward or midfielder who is a boyhood Villa fan, who's had his troubles, he's turned it round, is now one of the best players in the league, who then signs a new contract, gets punched by a Birmingham fan, and then scores a goal in the same game to win it. Mate, it's a dream world. He's got a Brummie accent. He sounds like you lot. It's like us with Harry Kane, essentially. It's a similar thing. It's a wonderful thing when the homegrown hero comes through.
And when they got relegated, he could have easily said,
Yeah.
I'm moving on now. We could not have complained like that because obviously it's a lot better than Championship.
Yeah.
So it was nice of him to stay.
Well, I mean, in a way, it was nice of him to stay, but you created him, mate. You gave him the platform. Villa supported him when he had these troubles, and now look at the player he is. So I think he owed it to Villa to stay. But better than that, though, mate, is it didn't seem like he from my perspective, looking at it, it didn't even feel like he felt he owed it or he felt like he had to go away. There was no question he was going back down, and he's going to bring you back up. And he's better now than he was in the Championship. He's more effective now than he was in the Championship. He's twice the player. And look, who's to say they can't do it in Villa? You've won 4 on the bounce. You've only conceded 2 goals all season. I don't know what the fuck's happening there. That's bullshit, in my opinion. 2 goals you conceded all season. And
if I'm being realistic, we probably end up in the top 6.
Oh, but that's not bad because you could have gone down last year.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying I don't think we'll end up in the top 4 or anything like that. Being realistic.
Well, look, who knows? It's a crazy season. Anything crazy stuff is happening. No, in what world did you ever think you'd absolutely slap Liverpool 7-2? No one saw it, and you did. And not only that, you deserved it. You weren't like one of these freak results. You could have been more. There's teams dropping. Spurs conceded a 3-goal lead from the 82nd minute last week. People are losing points everywhere. So who knows what's going to happen? It's a really exciting league. It's really exciting football, and for the first time in a long time, I really look forward to watching games.
Yeah. So my final question.
Yeah.
If there was a piece of content or podcast you've done and you want to show people some of your best work, what do you go for?
Well, I would. The thing is, the Fighting Cock is a Tottenham podcast. So unless you're a Spurs fan, you're probably not going to get a great deal from it. So whenever someone says this, I throw them to a podcast that I'm doing with a friend of mine called Chris Miller or Windy, and it's called 15 Minutes, and it's a podcast about life. It's about what's happened to us in our lives. So we've done one on school, on first girlfriends. We've done one on drugs. We've done one on travel, job history, and we're really being open. We're mental health. We've done so. We're just being open for 15 minutes. Each episode, 15 minutes long. We get a subject. We just and then we talk for 15 minutes because we've known each other for a long time. We're very comfortable with each other, and we just we leave it very open. And that's what I would like to push anyone who's watching this to. If they want to hear more of this sort of chat, then you go and just Google 15 minutes or go to Spotify or whatever you get your podcast. Type 15 minutes with Flav and Windy, and you'll find it.
That sounds really good. I'll have to go and check that out.
I hope you do, mate. I hope you do. Let me know what you think.
I will. So thank you for coming on, Flav. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, guys. Do you want to promote your social media, Flav?
It's at Flav_Bateman, BATEMAN. And then that's the best place.
And if you want to follow me, it's and 7795 and 7795 and on Instagram it's AWTV. Very weird names, I know, but
AWTV. I'm gonna write that down and give you a follow. All right. Thank you so much, Anthony. That was really good, really interesting. Great to talk to you.
If you can't find it, mate, just send me the link.
All right.
I would send you the link. That's what I meant. So,
okay.
So thank you for watching, guys, and I will speak to you soon.